All right, let's talk about something that's happening inside you right now. It's this incredible, high-stakes balancing act that your body performs every single second. We're talking about acid-base balance. This is the silent, non-stop process that is literally keeping you alive.
So you've probably heard this number before, right? A blood pH of 7.4. It sounds so incredibly specific, but have you ever stopped to wonder why? Why is sticking to that precise number, walking that chemical tightrope, a matter of life and death?
Well, here's the deal. Almost every single process in your body, every enzyme, every tiny cellular machine is a total diva. They will only work under perfect conditions. And that perfect condition is a super, super narrow pH window. If things get even a little too acidic or a little too basic, these little workers just stop. They grind to a halt, and that's when things get really dangerous.
Okay, so what happens when your body gets hit with what you could call an acid attack? And this can come from anywhere, your own metabolism, an illness. How does it fight back to protect that delicate balance? Well, it's got a whole defense system, starting with the first responders.
And these first responders, they're your body's amazing chemical buffer systems. The best way to think of them is like chemical sponges. They're just floating around in your blood, ready to soak up any extra acid or base that shows up. The superstar here is the bicarbonate system. It's the MVP, doing most of the heavy lifting, and it is incredibly fast.
What's so cool about this is that it's not just one thing. It's a multi-layered defense. It's all about timing. Instantly, within seconds, those chemical buffers jump on the problem. Then, within minutes, your lungs get the signal and start adjusting your breathing. And finally, over hours or even days, the kidneys come in to do the slow, careful, long-term cleanup. It's a beautiful, coordinated response.
So, we've mentioned the big players, the lungs and the kidneys. Let's look at a really simple but powerful way to picture how these two master controllers work together to keep everything in check.
Okay, don't let the math on this slide scare you. This is the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, which is basically the rulebook for your blood's pH. But you don't need to memorize it. Here's the key takeaway. Your pH isn't about how much acid or base you have in total. Nope, it is all about the ratio between the two.
And the best way to think about this relationship is like a seesaw. It's the perfect way to picture it. On one side of the seesaw, you've got the lungs. They're in charge of carbon dioxide, which acts as the acid. On the other side, you've got the kidneys, controlling bicarbonate, which is the base. When that seesaw is perfectly level, boom, your pH is stable and happy. And how does it stay level? Well, this is just mind-blowing. To hit that magic 7.4 pH, your body has to maintain an exact ratio of 20:1. That's 20 parts of the bicarbonate base for every 1 part of carbonic acid. Think about that precision. It's an incredible feat of biological engineering.
But, what happens when something goes wrong? An illness? An injury? What happens when one of those systems can't do its job and that seesaw starts to tip dangerously? Well, that's when you get into trouble. We're talking about one of 4 major acid-base crises.
First up, let's look at respiratory acidosis. In this case, the seesaw gets weighed down heavily on the acid side. Why? Because the lungs aren't getting rid of CO2 fast enough. They're underventilating or hypoventilating, and all that extra CO2 just builds up in the blood.
And this can happen for a lot of reasons. It could be something sudden, like a drug overdose or a head injury that slows down your drive to breathe, or it can be a chronic thing, like with severe lung disease, where your lungs just physically can't keep up anymore.
Now for the complete opposite problem, respiratory alkalosis. This time, the acid side of the seesaw flies way up in the air, making the base side seem heavy. This is all about hyperventilation. You're breathing too fast and blowing off way too much CO2, getting rid of too much acid.
So why would someone be breathing too fast? It could be a response to low oxygen or a high-stress situation like sepsis or shock. Even things you might not expect like advanced liver disease can mess with the part of your brain that controls breathing and just kick it into overdrive.
Okay, so we've talked about the lung side of the seesaw. What about the other side, the kidney side? Let's talk metabolic acidosis. Here, the problem isn't with breathing. It's with your metabolism or your kidneys. The acid side of the seesaw crashes down, either because you've lost too much base or your body is just cranking out way too much acid.
The causes for this one are all over the map. To sort them out, doctors look at something called the anion gap. Don't worry about the details, but basically, some problems, like diabetic ketoacidosis, dump a bunch of new acid into your system. Other problems, like really bad diarrhea, make you lose the bicarbonate base you already had.
Two different paths to the same problem.
And that brings us to our fourth and final crisis, metabolic alkalosis. You can probably guess this one. The base side of the seesaw is now way too heavy. This usually happens when the body loses a ton of acid, think stomach acid, or holds on to way too much bicarbonate.
The textbook example here, severe vomiting. Your stomach is full of acid, right? So if you lose a lot of that stomach fluid, you're losing a ton of acid. And what's left behind? A whole lot of base, which tips that seesaw way over into alkalosis.
But here's the amazing part. Your body is a fighter. When that seesaw starts to tip, the healthy organ system on the other side doesn't just sit there. It launches a rescue mission. It's this incredible process we call compensation.
Let's walk through a quick rescue mission. Imagine your kidneys are in trouble, causing metabolic acidosis. The seesaw is tipping to the acid side. So what happens? The lungs, the healthy partners, see what's going on and they jump into action. They start breathing faster and deeper to blow off more CO2, their side of the acid. Now, this doesn't fix the kidney problem, but what it does do is help level out the seesaw. It gets that crucial 20-to-1 ratio back closer to normal, stabilizing the pH and buying the body precious time.
Okay, so this is all fascinating science, but why does it really matter? Why should you care about this stuff outside of a textbook? Because in a hospital, in the real world, managing this balance is a daily fight for people's lives.
This balance can become incredibly fragile, especially for the most vulnerable among us. We're talking about critically ill patients in the ICU, premature babies with brand new kidneys, people with chronic liver or kidney failure. For them, this isn't just a number. Doctors are watching it like a hawk, minute by minute, because it dictates the life-saving treatments they need. The way we check this right now is by drawing blood, but that's just a snapshot, a single photo of a constantly changing scene. What doctors really want is the full movie, to see it all in real time. And believe it or not, new technologies are actually starting to make that possible. So let me leave you with this final thought. What's next? Well, researchers are already working on things like tiny silicon chips and machine learning that can analyze pH in real time. So just imagine a future where a tiny little sensor could watch this balance 24/7, feeding data to an AI that could actually predict a crisis before it happens. We could go from just reacting to problems to proactively, maybe even automatically, maintaining that perfect life-sustaining balance. Now that is the future.